eat more healthily, what to eat that still tastes good but is going to be healthy for you, and how do you stay on a diet when you need to stay on a diet, or should you, and so on. So we've been talking about ways that you can change your diet, and it's really about, as the experts have said now, diets in the traditional sense that we think of them don't really work, or they work for a short period of time and then they stop. What works is changing your habits, and that's something that's done over time. Changing your habits so that you work into your daily routine of things that you do and just automatically do. Healthier foods, exercise. People think of exercise and they think about, gym memberships. You got to go to the gym, you got to lift weights, you got to do this. And there's nothing, of course, wrong with that. It's just that most people find that very hard to sustain on a regular basis. Although others do it, because they enjoy the adrenaline rush of going to the gym, and that is what keeps them going. But you can build opportunities for exercise throughout your daily routine that doesn't involve going to a gym. Walks during lunch, taking a short run if you like to run, or riding a bike, or all of these other things that you can do. You can work into your daily schedule. One of the things that helps me, I'm a teacher and I work with kids. I do music and movement classes with kids. So I do the movement and activities with the kids. That's exercise for me. That's how I build in my exercise, my aerobic stuff. And then I can add to that things like weightlifting when I'm wanting to tone a little bit, or yoga, which is really my mainstay. I mean, to me, that is what gives my body the strength to add on to these other things, the aerobic side of it, the weightlifting side of it. But the bottom line, the baseline, is that yoga, which provides flexibility, which provides a stable strength and a core. I think that's the word they use, a core. And nothing helps strengthen the core better than yoga. So those are things to keep in mind if you're battling with trying to change your diet or trying to lose weight. So some of the topics in this area are what I'm going to talk about right now. We have some news about fast food. Now, you'd think there's been so much focus over the past 10 to 20 years on fast food and how bad it is for you, and the kinds of things it can do. We've had information, we've had research, we've had a movie, Super Size Me, in which a man literally eats nothing but McDonald's for 30 days, and you see what it does to him. So we have this information. So you'd think that, and we've been being told by these fast food companies that they are taking measures to do things like reducing trans fat, which many of these restaurants have done. I know Wendy's has eliminated all trans fat from their menu, and I think McDonald's is moving that toward that direction too. And adding more salads and things like that. So the impression they're giving is that their food is getting healthier, but according to a new study from Boston University, that is exactly opposite from true. Okay, it's not just that fast food restaurants are offering more entrees and desserts than ever before, which they are. If you look at some of these ads, you see these new dishes coming up all the time. But the amount of calories and sodium in these dishes has increased significantly over time. Also, the portion sizes have increased. And this study found that in the U.S., 37% of adults consume fast food on any given day. And that number goes up to 45% for the 20 to 39 age group. 45, that's, okay, silly to say, but that's almost half of young people, millennials, I guess they call them, are eating fast food on any given day. And this researchers in this study reported that a single meal with an entree and side dish can give you up to an average of 767 calories. 767 calories. That's almost half of your 2,000 calorie per day diet, which is the amount that is needed for moderately active men and women to maintain weight. So one meal at a fast food restaurant is, using up at least half of your calories per day. The study also found that the portion sizes of entrees grew by 13 grams every decade, and of desserts by 24 grams per decade. And the sodium increased significantly in both categories. So this study followed over many decades, apparently. I'm trying to see how many decades they studied, but, it looks like at least 20 years. And it's pretty discouraging. It's, a lot of these fast food outlets have added healthier menu items. But that means more people are consuming these fast foods thinking they're healthier, and they're not. And we continue to have a growing obesity problem in this country. But the thing is, it's something that's very easy to counter, because you can easily find the calories. Pay attention to your calorie counts, how much you're taking in. Look at, you can find all the numbers. You can find the amount of fat, the amount of sodium that's in these things. If you have to eat at a fast food restaurant, and sometimes you have to, sometimes you don't have a choice. You need to be aware of these things, and we talked about these in a couple of weeks ago. But certainly bears repeating. If you go to a fast food restaurant, let's say you go to McDonald's or Wendy's, but you just get the salad, that's great. However, if you get the salad and a dressing, and you add a dressing, that's huge amounts of calories. More calories, you end up eating more calories and fat than you would if you actually bought the burger. Okay? So those are things to be aware of. You can get a healthier dressing that's just, balsamic vinegar. Great. Very few calories in that. But if you do the Italian dressing, the Russian dressing, whatever, it's going to be a lot of fat. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the diet strategy that works the best. And this is verified by researchers in a recent study in the University of Vermont and University of South Carolina. And it may be hard to do, but it is recording, self-monitoring your habits, tracking your daily food intake. But again, and since this is a show where I promote the mindfulness approach, this can be used as a mindfulness exercise. Self-monitor without judgment. And if you can do this self-monitoring 3 or more times a day, the study found that those who could do that were the most successful. Just recording your food intake, not in any critical way or even with a mind to change that or shame you for what you're eating, but just to keep a record of it. Keep a record of what you eat. Observe it and think about what you'd like to change, what you could alter. And if you can do that on a regular basis, it will help you make the changes you want to make in your diet. All right, so on to our story about St. Patrick's Day. Now, St. Patrick was a legendary Irish saint who was known for, one of the things they talk about is that he drove the snakes out of Ireland. So what does that mean, driving the snakes out of Ireland? Well, what Patrick was a Christian missionary, and what his goal to do was to convert the Irish people from the indigenous religions that they had been steeped in, what some call paganism, and convert them to Christianity. And according to tradition, Patrick returned to Ireland after being away, and after having found God and the Christian religion, he came back to Ireland to convert the pagan Irish to Christianity. And so when they talk about him driving the snakes out of Ireland, what they're talking about is his efforts against the Druids, who were the powerful pagan priests of Ireland, and converting those thousands of Druids to Christianity. That's what they mean when they are talking about driving the snakes out of Ireland. The snakes are the Druids. Now, another thing that's associated with St. Patrick's Day is the three-leafed shamrock, three-leaf clover. And the legend has it that this is what St. Patrick used to explain to the Irish pagans the Holy Trinity. Holy Spirit, the Son, and the Father. So that's why the shamrock, or the three-leaf clover, has come to be associated with St. Patrick's Day. Another tradition of St. Patrick's Day, of course, is when we think of St. Patrick's Day, we think of people drinking a lot, which they still do. St. Patrick's Day was meant to be a feast, and according to the religious practices of the day, the restrictions of Lent, which comes in February, which restrict certain foods and certain drinking, including alcohol, they were lifted for this one day. So that's why St. Patrick's Day is associated with drinking alcohol, particularly Irish whiskey, beer, and such forth. And that has become an integral part of these celebrations. So those are where some of these ideas about St. Patrick and St. Patrick's Day come from. Wearing green was also connected to the shamrocks, the three-leafed plant that he used to explain the triple deities of Christianity to pagans who I'm quite sure had absolutely no interest whatsoever. But that's how green became also associated with St. Patrick's Day. So some fun facts, if you will. All right, now on to our main story, which is the 30th anniversary of the Internet and where we are going. What's the future of the Internet here? So, Tim Berners-Lee wrote this research paper which he gave to his boss. It was called Information Management: A Proposal.